Hello, how is everybody doing? I hope everybody is well. This may be unusual time, first work day for many people before 7 a.m., but I wanted to express something that was on one spirit. Again, I do not come here as a psychiatrist or so, but what one cares to sit there and express and get out to the people, if we will. Let me test this sound on something. So we call this one here signs of a fake apology. What can we ascertain in this, if we will? Let's look, if we will, right? When someone offers an apology, he or she may say things such as, I'm apologetic, my bad. When one says my bad, he or she is saying that he or she acknowledges a bad thing that he or she did. Some may say, I'm sorry. Some may say, I ask for forgiveness or I seek forgiveness. Somewhere in those particular things, between my bad, I'm sorry, seeking forgiveness. But there are certain things that are generally not said when an apology is sincere. And I would like to pull up a PowerPoint, if we will, and look at it from this angle, right? Now, again, I don't come here or through here as a psychiatrist or psychologist or so or anything of that kind of nature, but rather as a person who has seen certain things. All right. So let's pull this up and see. This should be here on the screen, right? And we are on the platforms Moreh Yeshaya Torah Lessons and Moreh Yeshaya History Lessons. And on this, it says, I understand the buildup, but it was not all me. That is a fake apology, even though we don't see words like my bad, forgive me, and things such as acknowledging your fault in something does not mean that you're kissing the other person's behind or their backside. But that statement that says, I understand the buildup, let me explain why there may be a buildup in something. There are people who hold things in and hold things in for whatever reason. Some say for the greater good. Some say the other person didn't mean what can be said as their bad or their wrong or their indiscretion or their lack of discretion or their disrespect or whatever it may be that's not good. You understand? But when we see a statement that says, I understand the buildup, even if the buildup is, say, between A and B, and A has been doing things that B has been feeling offended by, and it's become a buildup. Well, I understand the buildup, but it wasn't all me. When A is told about how B feels from B, C, D, or E, you understand. That is a fake apology. That is a person who does not, in due respect, ever expect to have to be given the opportunity to even have to take accountability. That will never expect to have to take accountability. Some older people do it to younger ones. Some males do it to females. Some females do it to males. And regardless of whatever silly slave tone rhythm, it is still not good. What do I mean when I say slave tone rhythm? For those who may have read the Willie Lynch letter and How to Make a Slave, age and gender were two of the things that the Willie Lynch letter speaks upon in making a successful slave and making a slave become such. So now let's look back at this. And it says, I understand the buildup, but it wasn't on me. Now, in many cases, say you got A who is being accused of causing a buildup from B. Now, in many cases, B didn't say it was all of A's fault, whatever B may be feeling. But B may be letting A know all the buildup that has come directly from A. But A doesn't want to have to ever acknowledge or take accountability. And that is a problem. So now when B decides to move on and not deal with such matters, A, either one, because A did not care in the first place, it might be a relief to A, like, whew, finally, you understand, didn't want to deal with X, Y, and Z as we're dealing with alphabetical letters in this particular case in the first place. You understand? Or A may get in one's feelings and then be like, I can't believe it. I can't believe what B did. But what you may have forgot, not trying to play words, is B was a brother, a buddy. B was a person, even if female, as buddy or so. And so when we begin to sit back and think, and when we begin to sit back and analyze, and when we begin to sit back and understand, for instance, what the Bible would say, a brother offended is harder to win than a bars of a castle. That is in the scriptures. You understand? That is in Proverbs chapter 18, verse 19. So if A has any wisdom and if A has any concern, A will say, let me hear B out with a clear mind. Let me not go into this matter hearing B with already a preconceived thought that A has already contrived. Because what happens is as B begins to sit there and see the disrespect, when B begins to sit there and acknowledge that he or she is not being respected, B will see himself or herself out of that situation. And A may realize, like, I couldn't believe it, but you have to believe it. See, what happens at times is people are served his or her own behind, that they expected B to kiss, that they expected B to kowtow to, that they expected B to always be that person, male or female, regardless of age, to always accept A's foolishness. And such is not what life is built on. B was not put into this earth to accept anybody's foolishness, anybody's intolerance, anybody's ridiculousness. So now the other thing that is said in a fake apology is the word but. When you offer an apology, and we all on this earth have to do so at times, it's a part of life. The words but, if used, is a fake apology. Let me give an example. You don't say, I apologize, but what about him or her? That's fake at that point. If you remember, not to blow anybody's name up, that lady who was a cop that got in trouble because of her things that she said concerning black people, her name was Ashley Rodriguez, the police lady. Let me make sure I do get the name right, because I don't want to sit there and misquote somebody's name. And if I misquote, I apologize. But I would want to take out the time now to look it up. Let's see. All right. Cop. Wanted to make sure in this particular case. Racist rant. And let's see. See, I stand corrected. It's not Ashley Rodriguez, it's Ashley Gonzalez. See, stand corrected. Now imagine if I said the person's name wrong and then just came out my behind like, well, it is what it is. You know what I'm saying? Well, no, stand corrected. Learn to have to eat your words and apologize sincerely. It is not Rodriguez, sir. It's Gonzalez. Get it right. You understand? So this fool, Ashley Gonzalez, in her so-called apology, decided to sit there and say, well, if you can forgive me, that is extremely fake. You understand? That right there, it makes absolutely, positively no sense. However, now getting back into this directly, when people would say things, I apologize, but I'm sorry, but he or she is using that but as a way to deflect total accountability. Let me, before I close out this particular video, give you a very raw example of what I am talking about. When I was younger, a gentleman who was in my grade, but not in the same school, not that that's the biggest issue. The school bus went to two different schools to pick us up. He said to me, do you want to take somebody else's property off the school bus? And I said, okay, yeah, let's do that then. The person who asked me of that took the person's property. We got off the bus. We wound up going into the apartment building, dumping out the contents of that person's stuff in the incinerator. And when it was found out, because neither that person who did it nor I spoke on it, but it was known who did what. I got in trouble for it at home. For those who do know the channel, I was raised in the understanding of being an Israelite. I got in trouble in the congregation I was going to. There was nothing but trouble around me because of what I've done. Now, if I were to give a fake apology, even at that age of 8, 9 years old when I did that, it will go like this as a fake apology. I didn't come with the suggestion when nobody said I did. A fake apology with that would be, he came with the suggestion, he took the thing off, we dumped off the contents in the incinerator in his building. What I'm doing is not even what I would like to think to call deflection. What I'm doing is causing the blame to never be on me at all. If you don't ever have to acknowledge that I agreed to do something that was incorrect, then I feel I got over. I'm not going to, in a fake apology, take 100% accountability of what I've done. I'm going to say it was his idea. And it was his idea. And he was the one who carried the book bag off. And we did walk into his building. But I gave my 100% allegiance to the act that was incorrect. However, in that case, in giving a fake apology, I have but all in there, trying to elude the fact of my guilt, my bad, something that I should have not done. Now, how do I look at that person whom is the victim of that act and say such and expect to be seen as a certain way? It was a two-party people who did it, but there were those who were so fake. And so how can I never have to take accountability? How can I sit there and evade this one? The Bible talks about that in Proverbs 6, when it says, a heart that deviseth wicked imaginations. It takes work to try to find a way for you to be mentally relieved of something that you know you're guilty of. That takes more work than you need to have to do. It is easier to be sincere. It is easier to acknowledge your fault and move on in life. So those are two examples of a fake apology. Things that are said such as, I understand the buildup, like I understand where B is coming from, but it wasn't all me, A's fault, when nobody said it was all your fault, A. But all that is your fault stinks to you, and you can't smell your own ass and not realize that that's what you was giving somebody else to kiss, and they decide to not do so. Have a blessed day.